One big thing I managed to figure out was how to stick a rigid body player to a moving platform. Our player controller previously relied on a lot of separate add force calls and letting the physics solver handle the end result. Simply trying to add the moving platform velocity as another force was not working though, because I had no control over when my friction and velocity overshoot functions would fire relative to the moving platform, nor what velocity they were basing the reduction forces off of. As you can imagine, in situations that the platform was being moved very quickly, such as with a tether, the player would stutter and or be slowed too much and lag behind the platform. This led to a rework for the player movement system. Now, all the movement functions modify a relative velocity vector reference. How it works is moving platforms will pass their velocity to the player as an external force. I subtract this value from the rigid body velocity, and that creates a relative velocity starting point, which is then passed into my movement functions such as gravity, acceleration, etc., modified, and finally re-added to the external force. This final value is then applied to the rigid body. This means that players move relative to the platform, which means that they can move on the platform as the platform moves. Because the platform's force is never touched, it simply gets tacked on at the end. A cool secondary effect to this is that you can inherit the speed of the platform by jumping off at its peak acceleration. It gets bled off by the velocity overshoot function, which I adjusted so that you can bunny hop to extend the distance. There's a lot of issues that can arise when directly setting rigid body velocity, but it turns out that modifying a reference to the velocity and setting it at the end allows you to determine the order and timing of when forces are applied. Definitely something to look into for anyone who's developing a force-based system with a lot of moving parts, rather than simply relying on the physics solver to handle add force calls.